that same woman that had painted in a black eye, those pictures weren't made at the police station or at the hospital. She took those pictures herself, and she was blackmailing me for years because I had, when we met, I was studying to be a Jehovah's Witness. I was trying to do all those things. So you weren't having any sex or any of that stuff. So we got engaged, and I bring her to my home in Philly, and I had this tape because anytime I had interactions with somebody, I'd heard that Louis Armstrong recorded everything around him. Same thing with Marlon Brando. I recorded all his interactions with people. So I was recording things, and if I'd had phone sex with some girl, I was recording that. If we were having sex, I recorded that because I wanted to make sure there was proof of, if anything happened.
Right.
But I also recorded my mother the last 2 weeks before she died, and I had that on a dictaphone. And I didn't play with computers at the time. And she was like, why you got this on the dictaphone? I can put it into the computer. I was like, oh, great. And we could keep it forever. Wonderful. You're so wonderful. I go downstairs. I'm cooking some greens. 2 hours later, I come upstairs. All of my dictaphones from the last 15 years, she has downloaded into her computer. And then I was like, no, those are my private things. Oh, no, it's okay. I can just hit delete. And so I was like, okay, great. And then 3 months later, when I tried to break up with her because we had no sexual, there was no chemistry sexually, she was like, you think I erased those things? I kept those. And I know what you've done. And she started with the blackmail. And all I really wanted back was my mother's tape. Where she told me, I know you're going to be okay, Terry. I always knew you were going to be okay. I just wanted my mother's voice back. I paid her whatever money she wanted. She destroyed that. She destroyed my name. But like I said, I thought that was a death blow. But that's what took me back when I had nothing. That's what took me back to this. And that greater being started showing up again.
And you think if that had not happened, you probably would have gone further and further down the world of acting, and you would have abandoned this.
Oh, my goodness. I had, I was doing Iron Man.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, that gets taken away. We did a 3-picture deal with Marvel, a 3-picture deal, $4.5 million for the first one, $7.5 to $8 million for the second one, $12 million for the third. We signed it. They come back to me the week that my mother dies, and they called my agent, Charles King, he was at William Morris at the time, and they said, yeah, we want Terrence, but we want to come back for $1 million instead of the $8 million that we had agreed to. And my agent had an emotional reaction to a business decision, and he said, F you, and hung up the phone. Well, immediately they go to Don Cheadle.
Oh.
But instead of just doing that, they had to spin, he was terrible on set and all of these things, and went through all this stuff. And I'm calling Robert Downey Jr. I'm calling him because when I was doing the Brave one with Jodie Foster, Susan Downey was a producer with Joe Silver. She comes over to my trailer, and she's like, wow, it's so amazing. Congratulations on Iron Man. It's the first time they've hired the second lead before they've hired the first. But Robert wants to go in there. And they were talking about Clive Davis and all of that. And I was like, okay, great. I'm just moving along doing my thing. And she was like, but Robert really wants to go in, but they won't see him. And I was like, I love Robert. I love what he does. I loved him in Weird Science. I loved him.
Who did they want?
They wanted Clive Davis to play him because remember, in the series, War Machine was supposed to take over.
Right.
And I'm like, well, if Robert wants to come in, so I called Avi Arad immediately. He was the producer on it, and I'm like, Avi, I hear Robert wants to come in, but you guys won't even let him audition. He's like, no, we can't bond him. I'm like, instead of the $4.5 you want to give me, why don't you take $1 million for the bond for him? If he get, if and let him audition, and so he gets the part.